Yeah.
Welcome to the second episode of the Who Are You podcast. Okay, so today's podcast theme is revolving around fear, and the title is Fear is Your Friend. So we're just going to be discussing ideas of what people personally think fear is, how have they overcome their past fears, and have they changed as a person after overcoming these fears, and how has AIESEC helped them overcome their fears, and then just some takeaway points. So yeah.
I think like in general, fear is usually a lot to do with like being observed and being seen doing something and not it being taken well.
Like
I think like judgment, exactly. I feel like a lot of the time when we say like fear is holding you back, it's usually like you want to do something but you're just scared that it's gonna come across a certain way. But realistically, if no one was looking at you, you do like whatever you want, you know? That like kind of comes down to like the phenomenon of like the spotlight effect, where you feel like everyone's looking at you and like they're like noticing every small thing you do, but then nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
That was so deep.
Raymond. That is so deep, bro.
No, I mean, look, I think fear is I'd say fear is an indicator. In many cases, so I guess sometimes you fear to do certain things, and I think that's a good indicator that you should be doing it, right? You don't want to be doing certain things. Like for example, it was not really a fear, but I remember times when I had to go for a run, right? Go at 6 a.m. because I had uni the whole day, so it'd be getting up at 5 a.m. and just like having the fear of just going to and I'll just sit there for like 20 minutes. Just staring like I don't want to go for a run, you know, or go to the gym. Sometimes I used to wake up and go to the gym, especially during high school because I was studying very, very hard. So I used to wake up early in the morning and go to the gym and then train it to high school. So I guess it's a good indicator of when you should be doing something because it's your mind telling you that you don't want to do it, but you low-key should be doing it in a way. So.
Also, like you say, it's like sort of like a checkpoint or something for you to go towards because it's good, like the fear.
Yeah,
it's like
for sure. I mean, like again, you'd have that fear of just like, for example, during HSC, I had that fear of just when going into the exams. Like this was it, right? Studying for like 13 months, and then it all depends on this last exam.
Yeah.
There is a bit of fear, but I mean, you got to do it anyways, right? So it's a good indicator when to, I guess, jump, right? To take that leap. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I think like I used to view fear as like this undefeatable like enemy. So like I view it as like a video game. Like you see fear, it's like this level 9,000 like dragon or something, and you're just there and you're like, bro, how do I defeat this? But then like when I've actually like taken the action and then gotten through it, it's crazy. It's like, oh, it's not so bad. And then when you realize it's not so bad, it's like, wow, is anything really impossible? Is it all in my head, or is it like, you know, what people think? And like, yeah, just like really realizing most of the things that you fear is mental. And so yeah,
I mean, it's kind of like when you overcome your fear, you're kind of proud of yourself. It's like you've done something, right? But yeah, you should always be proud if you overcome your fears, but also not be satisfied. So there's that.
Why shouldn't you be satisfied?
Because I think if you're satisfied, then you have nothing to work for, right? Like there's nothing you would push yourself for. So there's this saying where when an alligator is like just eaten, it's satisfied, right? And almost in a state of paralysis, and that's where they like kill the alligator. So it's kind of like that. So when you are proud, right, you reflect back on yourself and you look at, okay, yeah, I've done this and I can do it again. But you shouldn't be satisfied in terms of moving to the next level, for example, right? And the thing is, what I've realized is if your life does get harder, it just means that you've leveled up, right? So
That's a very interesting take.
Okay.
Neel,
he's got the...
Yeah. It's a very interesting take.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that's the difference between like self-fulfillment and satisfaction. I think what we're talking about is like self-fulfillment where you're like, oh yeah, I did do this, you know, like, and more so it's not to prove to anyone else that you did it. It's more just like you didn't believe you could and you actually did.
Yeah, sure. I feel like part of fear also stems from like trauma. What you're scared of is a reflection of like how you were treated when you were younger. So I feel like when you heal a part of yourself that you have experienced when you were younger helps to like overcome those fears. Yeah.
Anything to say, Raymond?
Not much. Trying to think. Yeah, I think for me, fear does stem from insecurity as well. Obviously, I think especially when I was young, even now, I'd say I think I care too much about what people would like think when I do something, right? And obviously that, you know, I guess you could say like, oh, I'm scared to do this or that because you know of how others would perceive it. So yeah. So I guess that's one thing I want to mention. Yeah.
How did you like overcome that?
Look, I'm still definitely working on it now, but definitely taking small steps to do it. Let me think of an example, if I can give you one. Might have to get back on the end to this, but
That's all good, right?
yeah.
Time to get vulnerable.
Damn.
Going down the rabbit hole.
I think I can start. So for me,
Yeah.
it really was. So if you push it back, like primary school, okay, I literally had no friends, 0 friends.
Yeah.
Like year 3, 4, no friends, and then I switched to primary schools, and then started to get a bit more social. But like it was still hard because then I'd be in that group where it's like we were just playing card games in the corner, like not really like the popular kids or anything. So like just and then when high school hit, it was sort of like you did have friends, but also I started realizing like I had like physical insecurities. So like things like, oh, am I too skinny? I had a lot of acne and like hair issues and like things like that. And then you go outside and you'd be hyper looking at everyone and you're like, hey, what does he think of me? What does he think of me? And yeah, and just like getting through things is like a bit hard, but and then after that I was like, okay, you talk to these people and they don't even notice. You're like, hey bro, did you know like I had this? I'm like, what? No, I was worried about my own thing. And then you talk to this guy and he's like, oh, I didn't even notice about that. And then you realize, oh, people really don't notice. But then at the same time, I don't think for me it ever goes away. You still step outside and you're like, oh, there's a little bit of that. Hey, what do they think? So it's always like, yeah, but it gets better, I think. So, yeah.
What kind of helped you?
I think what helped was the first time I put like a video on TikTok. I was like, nah, because people were clowning me, bro. Like, legit. Like, people were like, oh, bro, why are you filming TikTok? And it's like, so cringe. Like, okay, yeah. Like, they were saying like all that stuff, but I was like thinking, I'm not gonna be like young like this anymore. Like, what if I get to 80 and I've never filmed a video? I'm like, okay, if you're 80 and you look back and you realize how small these things you think that are big in the moment are, and they're not really that big, and you're like, okay, so yeah, I just posted my video and then you get more confidence as you go, or like, yeah, just getting out there, that's the only way. So yeah, that's what I think.
But then what made you kind of post that first video?
I hated not being able to post and sitting in my room and being like, oh, I want to post so bad. I'd sleep and I'd be like, I want to post. I wake up. It was weird, bro. It's like an obsession. And then once you do it, and then people, like, when people started like commenting, oh, I like your stuff, your whole world view just flips. And then you feel so like you feel like the world's your oyster. Like, it's as cringe as it sounds, you really do feel like anything that, if you can overcome your mind, I feel like it's just, yeah, for me. Anything's possible. Yeah.
Like, seen for yourself.
Yeah.
In like an ironic way, you don't want to be seen, but like you do want to be seen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know, yeah. Like,
Who was like your support network in terms of like making those TikToks? Like now?
Oh, I think the funny thing was, some of my friends were actually supportive of it. Some of them were trolling, but then some were like, "Nah, bro, when you get 1,000 followers, we'll always support you." I literally started with 27, so then like when I reached there, I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." That, and also like, I guess, my mom, because I'd film it and I'd be like, "Mom, what do you think of the fit?" Like,
Aww.
7 out of 10. Could do better. And I'm like, "Okay, what the heck?" And like, yeah. So yeah, family and yeah, just friends. So, yeah. Does anyone else have like any like examples as well? Oh, it could be anything. Doesn't have to be about TikToks, bro. Like honestly, yeah. It's like, yeah. But
I'd say when I was in high school, because I came to Australia in year 7, I think. Yeah, so it was like 7 years ago, and then my English was so bad.
Really?
It was so bad. Like I was like told, my English teacher,
Mm.
like the principal, even talked to me on the first few days, and then they were like, "I recommend you to go to a language school first." And it was like, you basically telling me I shouldn't go to that school because it was like a normal like English like speaking school. They told me to go to language school first to like practice before starting there, right? But I was like, I don't know, I feel like putting yourself in those uncomfortable situations where you really have to force yourself to I guess speak English is like important. So I was like, I'm not gonna go, I'm just gonna stick here, even though they were so against it, but I was just like, I can't say that. I can't swear.
I'll cut it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't really care, I'm gonna practice my English through that. So I stayed, and then but the whole time during high school I was like so afraid of public speaking. I feel like a lot of people relate to that. I literally I can't say that.
oh, you can't say.
Probably not.
Yeah,
It's
probably
not.
not. Probably not.
I need to stop.
I cut it out.
But basically, yeah, I was like so afraid of talking to people. Even I couldn't even talk to people that are like Western looking. I was like always sticking to like the Asians and stuff like that, which is not very good. But yeah, that's what I was so scared of. I didn't want to get outside there and talk to people because I was scared of the judgment. Like one time I literally talked to someone, I tried talking to someone and they were like, "Are you from China?" And I was just like, I'm gonna stop talking from now on. But I think towards like middle-ish, near the end, I had a friend who was doing a radio show. She had this radio show that was like linked to uni, and then she was basically the host of the radio show, and then she was talking about it to me, and then I was just like, oh, that's so interesting. And she was saying how her like I guess her English, and she was local already, but she said how her public speaking skills and stuff improved a ton. And I was just like, oh, why not join, right? And so she, I guess, pushed me to join that radio show. And I think that's the part where I was like, I really got out of my comfort zone and like faced that fear. And even though I was so bad at it at the start, you should listen to the first few ones. Don't, but it was so bad. I would stutter so much. And because it was like a proper radio show, right? You go to a radio recording studio and stuff like that. It was very daunting to me. But doing that gave me so much, I don't know about confidence, but so much like practice even to just not be so afraid of stuff like that, which is why I'm doing this.
Look
Like,
at you.
I know.
I'm proud of you.
That's why I think you guys know about this, but yeah, I really wanted to start my own podcast after that radio show. Yeah, and look at us.
Dreams do come true.
I know. But yeah, basically, I think something else I want to talk about is like how important it is to have those people around you that push you. Kind of what Martin said, right? His friends like were supportive of his I guess actions, and my friend, even though she understands my I guess inability to speak very fluently, I guess, but she was still like pushing me to do those things. She wasn't like, oh, you can't speak, so I don't know, I don't think the audience would want to listen to this. She cares so much about like my own I guess self-development, and that's what's really important in this society, I guess. It's so important to have those people that challenges you and like forces you to get out of your comfort zone, and that's why I think this group is very important as well in terms of as pushing each other to get outside of their comfort zone.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I really like resonate with what you said. Like, since I was like really young, I've always been into like productivity and like self-development. You know, like I used to watch like Ali Abdal and like all of that growing up. So like, because like I've been into that for so long, since I was like so young. So growing up, I just like always knew that this is what I wanted to be, and like working on yourself was like very important to me. And for some reason, because of that, I feel like I manifested people who were like that around me, like throughout my life, right? But the thing is that like I came across this YouTube channel called like Seek Discomfort, okay? And since that day, since I've been like watching their channels, that's all it's about. It's just about doing things to make you uncomfortable, because comfort is like death, you know what I mean? If you stay the same, you know how your life is gonna be. You're already dead, you know? So with that like whole Seek Discomfort thing, I really like put it to the test, you know? Like I really did like random things and sorry. Just like I basically just like pushed myself to do so much, but the point I wanted to make was that sometimes it's too much, to the point where I was uncomfortable all the time. And like that's like the other side of the coin that I feel like people don't talk about enough. That yes, do things that make you uncomfortable, yes, grow, yes, develop as a person, but if you push yourself too far, you can burn out. And if you push yourself too far, you become so comfortable with being uncomfortable, you don't know what it feels like to be comfortable anymore. If that makes sense.
But that could be a new version of comfortability.
True. But the thing is that, at least like, I'm saying this like out of my experience, like at least like last sem was like, I'm a first year, right? So like last sem was my first sem, and I put that too far. Like I did that too much, to the point where like I was uncomfortable constantly.
Give example.
Like an example is like I didn't sit a whole day in my room until a month into being in Sydney. As in like I would go early in the morning and I would be back like late at night. Whether I was like at uni, whether I was like out with friends, just constantly outside. But because of that, I kind of had no me time. I had no like focus on myself, because you need to like rest and recover, you know. So yeah, I don't know, that's just like something I wanted to say, because I feel like sometimes people make this sense of self-development like too what's the right word?
Like, in a way it feels forced.
Yeah, and it's like it's too
Feels
like
fake.
What's the word for it? Like they put it on a pedestal, this idea of like self-development and stuff, but it can go like the other way also.
Yeah.
So do you think you like confused being busy with being productive? Like just being busy all the time?
Not necessarily. I confused being busy with putting myself out there, and which technically it was, but it's just about finding that balance. And I feel like that this sem I've like valued that. It's like your own personal boundaries of being like, no, I don't want to do that, and like, yeah, I do want to do that, you know. And it comes back to the point of like, you're not doing things for other people, you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you just have yourself, and if you don't like yourself, if you can't sit like with yourself alone with your thoughts, then like who are you, you know? Who are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Raymond.
Alright.
Go on.
So I think I'd say I'm a bit opposite to Devanshi in the sense that I reckon I've still got like, I've only got 1 foot maybe out the comfort zone. Alright, and that's for me, that's just moving to Sydney. That's the main thing. So I don't know, as many of you know, I'm from Canberra originally, and a lot of my family and friends are still there, right? So after high school, I was like, what do I want to do? Do I, like, the big after year 12 question is like, oh, do I just, you know, go to a uni in Canberra, like with my friends? Like, you know, that's like, I guess, the most comfortable thing I could have done, right? Or do I maybe try something new? So I kind of beep out, and yeah, I decided to stay in Canberra for a year, see how it was. So I went to uni in Canberra, with
Oh, you didn't tell us.
So I didn't tell you this. I went to uni in Canberra, for a semester, and I didn't enjoy the course at all whatsoever. I was doing software engineering. Yeah. Sorry. It's not you. It's just like I don't like coding, and I never really did. Obviously, like, don't knock it. I think there's still a lot of great things with it, but for me, I really, like, I don't know why, but I was really interested in like construction and building, and how like things got built. I was gonna say erected, but that's not wrong.
Still valid then.
But yeah, basically, yeah. So I was like, Canberra, you can't really do. There's not really that kind of like degree. Like, there's no like real civil degrees or like construction related. So I was like, how can I do something that I like, right? So I talked to some family members. I know I'm pretty sure I told you this, Martin, but my brother lives in Sydney, right? So I talked to him. He's like, you know what? I think you should definitely try to move to Sydney, and I'll definitely try and make the transition easier for you. So, you know, he's obviously I'm living with him right now, so I don't have to worry as much about where to live. Obviously, money is not too much of an issue. Yeah, sure, I cover rent every every week, but like, it's not too bad. And they've really helped me, you know, lighten the burden on me, so I can really just focus on going to classes, just focusing on that, and then coming home, really. So yeah, I reckon I still got like a huge like chunk of myself is like in that comfort zone, but I reckon I'm slowly like going to like walk out of that until I can find maybe the new definition of comfortable. So still a work in progress. Haven't done anything too extreme yet. But yeah, even just taking that first step, I reckon the first few weeks, I was like, did I really make the right choice? Should I just have settled? But you know what? As I go on, I've actually like figured maybe like I'm slowly like thinking it was the right choice, because you know, I'm doing it for myself. I'm not caring about what my friends think. You know, my friends are going to uni in Canberra, so I'll go with them. Ditch them. Bye bye. No, I'm joking. But yeah, that wasn't the main reason. But yeah, just thought more about myself and took that first step out of the comfort zone. I think that's all I'll say for now. Yeah.
Wow.
Nice story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Your background story.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think that's like the idea of like taking risk, right? But also, I'm not sure if the quote was exact, but they're talking about like how people think not taking risks is safe, where in fact when you don't take risks when you're young is actually a risk in itself. It's like an irony, yeah. Because when you're young, we literally like there is responsibility, but obviously we don't have families, no kids, presumably no mortgages or anything. Yeah, so like why not take risks now? When you look back when you're 30, like even my dad said, like he literally told me like, son, your 20s will be the most memorable time of your life, and when you're the most energetic and the most youthful, and you have like so much. Don't waste it sitting in a room, you know, just like,
Sure.
So I think, just take the risk, face the fear, you know, like,
Well, I mean, I don't know. Well, I have a bit of a mini story. Look, I was a bit nervous of saying this because I'm a bit closed off and I don't really talk about my personal life. But I remember during HSC, it was a 12-month period, right? So for my HSC, I'm not sure if Martin remembers, but our HSC was pushed back by 1 month.
Yeah, a couple of months.
Yeah. And towards that last 4-week period, unfortunately, my grandfather passed away from COVID. He had COVID. He fought the virus off, but he was a bit too weak to recover. Physically, he was very, very weak. And I remember seeing videos of him like struggling to just hold on to like a handrail or something, which is kind of tough. And that kind of like was like, whoa, I kind of didn't expect it. Like I knew COVID was a thing, but I didn't think it would like affect me personally. And then a while later, I had another grandmother pass away, probably within the 2 weeks. I wasn't too close to her. She was my dad's aunt, so it affected him more than me. But my grandfather was also my dad's dad, right? So I saw how much like it affected my father, and that really hurt me, right? Seeing people you love in hurt and pain hurts a lot. But I remember for a good week waking up and I was like, bro, I do not want to do anything. I remember I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to open that book. I didn't want to open my laptop. I didn't want to put food in my mouth, let alone eat anything. Right, so it was pretty dark. And during that time, I was in the local LGA, so I was in lockdown. So I couldn't talk to anyone. Or I had my family, which was nice, but I wasn't really someone who used to talk to people. I didn't have anyone to really talk to. And during that period, I remember there was the one thing I could do. So since HSC was pushed back, all my mates were doing like 2 weeks off or like a week off where they wouldn't really study or anything, right? And I was thinking, look, I could take 2 weeks off and I could mourn my grandfather and my aunt. My grandmother. But I wouldn't know where I would be after that 2 week period, right? So I was very uncomfortable. I didn't know what to do. And it wasn't that my parents weren't welcoming to talk to them. They were. But I wasn't that type of person to just talk about how I felt and what I should do. And I remember I sat and thought, and during the most uncomfortable time, I probably made like the best decision I've ever made. And I've learned a lot of stuff. So during that period, I sat down and I was like, look, I could take 2 weeks off and I cannot guarantee where I am after that 2 weeks, right? Or I could just go straight at it for the last month, just absolutely grind. Because I remember for 12 months, I did not take a day off. I literally did not remember a day where I sat there and did nothing. I did at least something every single day for 12 months. So I was like, look, I remember I didn't even drink. I didn't even like smoke or anything like that. I didn't go out that much. So I was eating good food as well. So I really focused for 12 months. And I remember I was like, look, what would my grandfather want, right? He would want me to actually keep going, right? He would want me to be a better man. He would want me to study very, very hard and get to uni, right? So that's what I did for that 2 week period. I grinded really, really hard. I grinded harder than I've ever grinded because it gave me purpose. Even though I didn't want to do anything, right? I still did it. And I remember I was like, look, if I do grind for the 2 weeks, I know that I'll get the results that I want, right? And I remember after that period, obviously, look, HC is kind of like a competition, but it kind of showed me what it's like to grind even when you're like going through pain and you're going through these fears and being uncomfortable. And it showed like when I just spoke to my mates, right? And they were, out of all of us, me and one other mate who grinded during that last period, ended up getting the highest marks. And it showed that, look, it pays off, right? Even though it hurts very, very much, but it showed me that there's a lot of responsibilities that you have to have when you grow up, and especially when you turn into a man. So like I felt like I turned from a boy to a man. I know it sounds a bit cringe, but it's true. But it's true, because what you're gonna have to realize was after that period of time, what I thought to myself is, look, when I have a family of my own, I'm gonna have responsibilities that I have to take care of, right? Regardless of how I feel, right? And the thing is, I think as a man, you should do it regardless of how you feel, right? That's the main thing, because there's people that you want to look after, people that you care about very, very much, and that you should obviously I believe you should protect and provide for the people you love, doesn't matter who they are, and you have that responsibility as a man. I think I guess in many ways they call it a stigma, but I think it's just who we are as blokes. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys have felt the same way or not, but I felt that very strongly, and when I realized that during that period of time, and it really changed me, like really changed me on how I like delivered myself to other people as well, to a point where even my habits changed significantly. I remember past that point, I went to the gym like almost 6 days a week, and I did not stop, and I did not take a day off. And it's just this consistency and like discipline that you learn from it as well, from your responsibilities. And I think there's a saying where people say, I don't believe where people mature based off their age, they mature based off the responsibilities that they have.
That's a good one.
Right. Because we're all still young here.
That's a quote.
Yeah.
That's a quote right there.
It's a very inspiring story. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think, that idea of just doing it even though you don't want to. But I also think, because for me, the whole reason I'm in Australia is because like my grandfather is like a veteran, so he fought in the Vietnam War, like alongside US troops. And then I always think back, like when I'm in, tough times, or like, I wouldn't even say tough, it's just like when you're mentally not in the right headspace. And then I think about like how grateful, I started to be more grateful, because like you think about Australia, right? And I think about, wow, if my grandfather didn't just like run, like he ran straight in, like, I don't want to go into too much detail, but like, just fighting and stuff. And then he showed me he has like a wound on his leg, just a whole bullet. I said, a whole bullet wound just there. And he's just like, yeah, bullet wound. And he just waddles off. I'm like, what? Like, it's like, you realize how much work your family has done and how much fear they probably face. And then you say, why can't you do that too? Like, it's you gotta, like, just looking back on what's gotten you to this place really is good. Let's say fuel. It's a good perspective to take. But
so for some of us, stepping out of our comfort zone was a challenge, and some of us may have found it easier than expected. But stay tuned for part 2 on Who Are You, to see how we overcome our fears.